everybody, welcome to the LTA show, back again. Different outfit, same topic though, D&D.
New day, same guest, different outfit, same topic. Yep, there you go, that covers it.
Yeah, you wanna get started to it? Cause,
Sure.
I know we briefly talked about making a character, the basics of like the board game and how you would set up the scenario, and then monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was only 3 of the books?
That was 3 of the books, but that's only like sub-parts of the book. Obviously the monster manual is just all monsters, but you know, there's a lot more stuff that can go on in the Dungeons Master Guide and the Player's Handbook. But the other 2 books that I brought are Xanathar's Guide to Everything and Tasha's Cauldron of Everything.
What's the difference with that one, the Xanathar's Guide, and then there's another guide somewhere. What is it, D&D?
There's the DM guide and then the Player Handbook.
So what is this one like specific to?
These 2 are essentially very similar books, just with different content. But what Wizards of the Coast does, which the people that make D&D, is they come out with an edition of D&D. Right now we're on 5th edition. So whenever you look something up, you look up either 5e or 4e or 3e, and that refers to all the different editions. Mm-hmm. Right now they're working on the 6th edition, but that's going to take who knows how long. Probably like 2025, 2026, something like that.
Really?
They take a lot of time before making a new edition. So whenever they do think of stuff that should be added or changed, but they don't want to release a full edition of it, they release one of these. So both of these books have additional content which adds on to 5th edition without it being a brand new edition of D&D. So if we look at Xanathar has, it goes back to the original classes, but now we have new subclasses.
Wow.
That we can now choose from. Has additional Dungeon Master tools, so falling. Usually there was not a specific rule to mention like if a character falls, how much damage they take. Now that this book has come out, they have explicitly said in the rule what is the damage to falling and whatnot. So tools, spell casting, new random encounters, downtime revisited, because downtime is mentioned in the other one, but they want to add more stuff to it. And then you got character names that they provided, new spells, and new magic items that they added. And then if we look at Tasha's Cauldron, you would see that the book is almost identical in terms of table of content, but it just has different things. So we go back to classes. We have new subclasses now. Mm-hmm. We now have essentially patrons, so gods, or organizations that you work for, and then new spells, and then new Dungeon Master tools. So Session 0, which talks about like building a character and whatnot. Sidekicks, which are like NPCs, and then you have supernatural regions, magical phenomenon, or natural hazards, so avalanches, falling into water, falling on a creature, stuff like that. But both of these books are set up essentially the same, but they have different amounts of content added to it, which adds to 5th edition without requiring of 6th edition essentially coming out.
So, if let's say you're getting into D&D, would it be better to get one of these guides or the Player's Handbook? Like
you
first?
always need the Player's Handbook.
So you get that, and then you get one of these 2. Like, do you need to get both, or you can get like?
You can get either or. The reason I got it is because my players, they started to look things up that they wanted to do, and some of the stuff that they wanted to do was from Xanathar's Guide, but I didn't have the book to look it up in the session of them doing it. And it's not that I don't trust that they're just making stuff up and be like, oh yes, I have a sword that just turns people into flowers. And I'd be like, okay, where'd that come from? It's from Xanathar's Guide. Now I don't have Xanathar's guide, so let me look it up online to see if it's true or if they're just lying about something.
Yeah.
So that's why I got these 2 books. So that makes me most up to date on any sort of information that players try to look up online and whatnot.
Okay. And is this book like mainly for like a dungeon master, or like for also just players that just want to understand a little bit more?
It can go both ways because it has stuff in it for the players, but at the same time, if you don't want your players to DM the campaign they're running, because you want them to play it, not running it. So you just want to make sure that they like refrain from looking into that section too much. But even then, it doesn't like hold secrets. It just shows like how the DM might incorporate it in that way. Like in my campaign, if someone were to read Tasha's Cauldron and they see DM notes, they could be like, hey, it says in this section about the DM notes that it does this. And I'd be like, I don't use that in my campaign. And if I say that, that's my final say. So whatever DM notes are in here are irrelevant to how I run the campaign, because I have the final say when it comes to DMing.
See, so it's like a guide, but like you don't have to follow every single thing.
Yeah.
Because the part of it is making it.
And making it up, making it reasonable if you wanted to, or making it imaginary. Making it fun is like the main thing I try to aim for.
Mm-hmm. And like, so I was like, I remembered one of the map that we saw. It was the catacomb, right?
Yeah, there's catacombs.
So like, let's say you're going to like, I don't know, some like 3-story building, like some ruins, you know? Like, would it be like you would manage each level? Like, can the group split up and then you just have to manage each floor? Or like, would you rather have, you know, especially like if it's a big location, would you rather just have them all stay in like one general idea where you can just kind of manage them?
So when I first did being a DM and whatnot, I usually have the players all grouped up in one area just because it's easier to manage. It's like, essentially being a DM is having a bunch of kids run around, and you don't want to lose your kids in different locations.
Yeah,
so I put them all on leashes, and they're all attached to me, so I know where they are and where they're running around.
Yeah.
And now that the newest campaign that I moved on to, and with this very similar players, I kind of allowed more free reign of them. So there have been instances where they kind of get split up, or they get divided, someone gets kidnapped or whatnot, and they'd have to split up that way. What I would do is I would work with the player in that moment about what they're doing, and keep all the information that they know and learn strictly to them, and then go to the other players and relay what their situation is. Because say someone got kidnapped and they're taken 100 miles away, I would then work with that kidnapped player and be like, hey, there's a sack over your head, you find that your wrists are tied and you don't have any of your weapons. But when I go back to the other players, I could be like, hey, you saw a couple bandits kidnap your person, or kidnap your party member, and they ran away in that direction. So at that point, I'd have to start juggling off of the group and being like, making sure everyone's up to date on what is going on. Because then eventually, say, the party catches up to the caravan and they throw a fireball and it blows up the wagon. The other group would do their rules and they tell me that. I'd then have to go to the kidnapped person and be like, you hear shouting from all the bandits, and then all of a sudden you feel yourself get thrown from the wagon and you feel hot heat coming towards you, but you don't know what it is yet because you still have the sack on your head and your wrists are tied. That's how I did it. And the main thing that I want to try and do is separate the player's information and the player's communication. Because obviously if you're at a table and everyone's around, it's hard to be like, you get kidnapped and you're somewhere else. Because then everyone else hears me say that. So in that case, I would either write it on a note and slip it to them and be like, hey, don't read this out loud. And they read it and see what the note is, and they'd maybe write something back to me and slip it to me. Or I'd take them out into like a back room and be like, all right, this is what happened and whatnot. What that is called that's called metagaming. And metagaming is very frowned upon in D&D.
Why?
Just because it doesn't. It's like min-maxing a game and not enjoying it. If you know what that means.
Min-maxing?
Min-maxing.
Sounds familiar. I've heard that term, but I don't really know what the meaning
So
is.
min-maxing is like doing the minimal amount of effort to get the maximum amount output of it.
Mm-hmm.
So min-maxing would be like in Minecraft, you'd find like you'd start strip mining. And the moment you have enough, you found lava or you found iron, you make a bucket, you make the nether portal. It's like speed running essentially without enjoying the game. So say Skyrim happens, min-maxing would be leveling up your character really fast and then doing only the main story without doing any of the side quests. That's what min-maxing is. And let's say in Pokemon, the game, it'd be like getting high level Pokemon and not leveling up Pokemon and then beating the final four in like less than 4 hours.
Yeah.
Not doing anything else on the side. Not training, not trying to catch all the Pokemon or finish your Pokédex. That's what min-maxing is. So when you apply it to D&D, it's like I take a player to the back, I tell them a secret thing that only their character knows, and if that person comes back to the table and they're like, oh yeah, my character knows this, blah blah blah. It's like, well, that doesn't make sense. Your character got kidnapped and is currently 100 miles away. You cannot relay that information to those players. That's what metagaming is.
So you can do it, but it's like it's not encouraged because it's not as exciting as.
I mean, in general, you just don't want to do it. I always like, if someone min-maxes, or not min-maxes, if someone tries to metagame in my game, I usually punish them for it. Like their character-wise, or if they metagame too much, I'll just kick them out of the D&D group. Just because that's so it's so widely frowned upon. Both in like just me and also like other people in the D&D community. Because then you're taking the fun out of it.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Say someone walks into a room first and they find a whole bunch of treasure and they find out that it's all an illusion or whatnot, or like the gold is cursed, and they'd be like, if the whole party is there, then the person in front could be like, hey, this gold is cursed or whatnot. But then a metagaming person would be like, hey, I looked it up online. A cursed pile of gold is actually a mimic that has this health, has this moves and these abilities and these stats. That's like extreme metagaming, which is really frowned upon. It's like looking up stats of monsters when your character wouldn't know what that monster is.
So it's like, I'm trying to think of like an example. It's like a group project, and it's like everyone's working together, but one person just like either is like nitpicking or like is trying to like not collaborate or like trying
to. The best way to explain metagaming is like it's cheating.
Just
in a sense, it's just cheating in a D&D game. Cause say I show up with like a dragon. Say it looks like an adult black dragon. So I have the stats written up for what the dragon is. If a player then at the table pulls out their phone, looks up what the stats of an adult black dragon is, and they go, hey, it has weak charisma, let's use charisma spells against it, the character wouldn't know that whatsoever. The character would have to give me a roll to see how well they know that information, and once they do, then I would let on a little bit of information. But just straight up looking up like how to do it is metagaming, which is in another sense like cheating, which is weird to think of in D&D, where it's like all imaginary and whatnot, but it's technically cheating.
Well, I mean, because you're just trying to it's like you're not going through the effort to,
Yeah.
Okay. Now, like, another question. So then, like, if you're in a team fight, like, let's say you're fighting the Kraken, like yesterday, would it be like one person rolls a dice, does their attack, then the next person rolls, or is it I try to attack first, then the Kraken responds to me, and then the next person attacks, responds to that person?
So
like back and forth.
So when we're talking about combat, the thing that we're talking about is called the initiative order. So the initiative order is basically determining the turns of who goes in the order. So say you have a party of 5, we'll just name them players 1 through 5, and then we have the Kraken. The Kraken is allowed 3 turns because it's a legendary creature. So the Kraken rolls its initiative, and let's say it gets a 20, a 10, and a 1. And then the players, they rolled a 19, an 18, a 12, a 9, and a 5. After calculating all of that, because the Kraken has a 20, the Kraken would go first on that turn. But then player 1 had a 19, so player 1 goes second. Player 2 got an 18. Player 2 goes third. Player 3 got a 12, so they go fourth. But then the Kraken's second initiative rolled a 10. So the Kraken's going to go sixth again. And then players 4 and 5 are going to go...
This is kind of like greatest to lead?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Based off a roll?
Yes, based off of the roll. The roll is all luck, but at the same time, certain skills that you have can change how lucky you are, or how much you need to depend on luck. So the main thing is, what I explained is just basic rolls. But if we go through initiative, in actuality, most players have a +2. So if that's the case, when I roll a 9, in actuality it's an 11, because it's 9 plus 2. If I decide that when I level up my character, I want to put more points into speed, at the same time that does increase my initiative. So now, instead of a +2, I would get a +4. So now I can start being the first in combat. That is now more likely to happen because I have a flat +4 added to my roll. Granted, I could still roll a 1, get a +4, makes it a 5, and I still end up low.
Yeah.
But if everyone rolls really low, that +4 could mean that I go in front of a lot of people.
Okay, now like I'm thinking of like a funny scenario. All right, let's say so the dungeon master is throwing the dice, right?
Yep.
For the mob.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the Kraken goes first, second, and third. Would you re-roll it, or would you be like,
okay,
well, that's very unfortunate. It looks like he's wiping out the whole group in 3 attacks.
It could go either way in that case. So what you are mentioning is something called fudging, in which you fudge a roll, so to say. So whenever I play D&D and I roll my dice, if I'm at a table, I am behind a massive screen, and whatever I roll can either be the real thing or it could be a number I make up or whatnot. But whenever the players roll, they have to roll out in the open where I can see the dice. So players can't fudge their rolls, but I, as the DM, can. So let's say the whole party is level 1, and they have just gone from one bad idea to another bad idea, and eventually that has led them to the Kraken. And if I did roll, and I found out that I got initiative order 1, 2, and 3, I would personally, I would look at it and be like, oh. I'd look at all the other players' rolls first, and then I'd probably space it out. So I'd fudge all 3 of those rolls, and just lie, essentially, and determine that the rolls that I did were not valid. But the players won't know because I roll my dice behind the screen. The players never see the numbers that I roll on the dice. So if that's the case, I would probably allow whoever was closest, so whoever had the fourth position in the initiative, I'd probably allow them to go first. Then I'd allow the Kraken. Then I'd allow probably 2 more players, then the Kraken again, 2 of the remaining players, and then the Kraken again.
Okay, like spacing it.
Yes. But let's say we got into a normal fight. Say we just have bandits and skeletons. So like low level, but still somewhat dangerous.
Yeah.
And I ended up I had 5 skeletons, and all 5 skeletons are in front. I'd probably keep that roll. I'd probably say, hey, your entire party initiative got slower than all of the skeletons. So all the 5 skeletons are going to go first.
Mm-hmm.
And I would allow the skeletons to do their turns and do their attacks. And then the players can retaliate afterwards.
So it's like kind of like a judgment call. Like you would kind of figure
Yes.
out whether.
It would be up to the DM on the judgment call for that.
Okay. Okay. And wait, so the monsters. So if it's a big boss, they'll get how many rolls? Like for like let's say a Kraken, and then like something equivalent to like a boss like that.
So
like a specific number.
We'll just talk about my first campaign then. And a Kraken is considered a legendary monster. So the Kraken would have 3 turns of combat, and it has like a health pool of like probably over 500 hit points. The first boss that I toss in my game only gets 2 initiative orders, and their health pool is around 150,
Mm-hmm.
and that would be what I consider a boss that they fight. So a little bit lower than the Kraken, but still higher than what a normal monster would be. And that's what I would determine as a boss fight.
So like using like the little guide as a reference,
Mhm.
and then kind of using past experience, you kind of level it out.
Mhm. Yep.
So it's like judgment call, like based off what they're fighting.
Yes.
You'll kind of give them a
So-
number.
During the first boss fight that my players did in my campaign, I didn't exactly know what to expect, because that was my first time DMing, and they were only at like session 3, and we've only been fighting skeletons and bandits, so relatively low monsters. They weren't level 3 yet, they're only like level 2, so really low level, and then they get to the first boss. The first boss initially had like, I think they had like 400 health. And to put in perspective, the weapons that they had at max did 6 damage.
A lot of turns is what I mean.
Yes.
They would have had a fight for
So
hours.
during that fight, I saw how it was going, and I went, I think the monster I created is a little too strong. So during that fight, I think I have a formula set up on how to do a boss's health, so to say. The same way that I do like a player's health. Player's health is their constitution times 5. So I did the exact same thing, but with a monster I did like times 20. So it came out to a ridiculously large number. So instead I tweaked it to do, I think, times 10, and that fit it in a pretty nice range for the players to feel like the fight was difficult, but the fight wasn't hopeless. And ultimately it worked out in the end. And then from that point I revisited all the other bosses that they would fight later down the line,
Mm-hmm.
and I tweaked their healths a little bit, and sure enough that formula still works till the sessions I do today. So on the fly I can make changes to the boss. What I don't do is I don't tell the players that such a thing is happening. I would be like, yes, I had this planned out all along, and they don't realize I may be changing how much damage the monster, or how much damage the boss does, or how much health the boss has.
Okay, so then like when they're in like a fight,
Mm-hmm.
and like let's say it's like a big boss, like a giant orc king,
Okay.
whatever,
Yeah.
whatever, or Cyclops. We'll do Cyclops, and let's say like he kills a player, right?
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the group, like they kind of like are a little scared because they think they're gonna die, right?
Yeah.
Do they get the option to like run, or is it like a way to like distract the Cyclops and for a chance? Is there like an option for them to escape
Yes.
a fight?
Maybe
Depending on the setting?
it depends on the setting. So say they found the Cyclops King, and their quest is to kill the Cyclops King. They can't exactly run away. Actually, let me rethink that. It'd be very depending on the setting. So let's say they got to the Cyclops King, and their entire quest for the whole campaign was to kill the Cyclops King. and say a player, they go into the fight and one of the players ends up getting killed, I would probably determine what the players want to do at that point. And then I'd probably encourage the players to either do this or do that. So say a player got killed and the party is now completely determined to avenge their Cyclops and they're like, we're going all in on it. I'd be like, okay, we're continuing the fight. Let me see how their damage is going to work on the Cyclops. And maybe on the Cyclops I'd tweak the damage they deal, or I'd tweak the health at that point. At the other side, if the party is now like, hey, we got to get his body out of here because we're not strong enough and whatnot, I'd probably give them the option to run away, keep the Cyclops health the same, and then allow the players another quest in order to get stronger, and then they can come back and fight the Cyclops King again with like new abilities, new spells, new gear, and clearly when they're all stronger. It could, at this point, it would be depending on the situation and the setting that I would choose from. Other times it'd be you just straight up can't. Say they went into a pit to fight a dragon.
Yeah.
You can't quickly climb. Say they spent like an hour climbing into the pit. They can't just climb out of the pit in like 6 seconds and be like, we cannot fight that dragon, let's fight it another time. Sometimes if they full on commit, I would hold them to it, that they full on committed to it.
Is there... So like as a dungeon master, is the goal to like help them win, or is it to help them like... Is it to end up using the monsters to kill them?
Well, usually you want your dungeon master to be unbiased, which is hard to do. But whenever I play, I usually want the goal to be everyone has fun, is usually the first one. And the second one is I'm able to tell the story that I wrote to them. So there have been instances where I could have like straight up killed someone and had the option to do so, but instead I showed mercy a bit and I'm just like, hey, here's a side way you can go. They did it that way, so I'm able to tell my story with that I wrote up and whatnot. Sure, some of the players may die, but that is a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
So let's say the scenario is like they're fighting like a dragon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know they can't climb out, and like there's only one person left. And like let's say he just dies. Like is the game over, or would they just be? Will the dungeon master be like, all right, everyone wants to keep playing, so then like, I don't know, new group formed, and we're inspired by the previous group that fought the dragon.
You kind of answered it right there. If there was one player left, and they cannot climb out, and the dragon has essentially won the fight,
yeah,
I would give them a very glorious death, and then I would essentially tell them that if they want to continue this D&D campaign, they would have to make new characters, and from there I'd be like, a new party has formed to avenge, and then I'd start listing off the previous players' characters.
Yeah.
It'd be like, Felix's twin brother got killed fighting a dragon, so his other twin brother has formed a party to avenge him, and that character would be a brand new character that player would then control.
So then like, let's say like the next group forms.
Mm-hmm.
Can the second group like use information from the first fight, like from the first group, like let's say like they knew from the past experience.
So now we're getting
into... Can they like kind of use that past experience?
So now what we're getting into is back into what metagaming is. The players already know what's at the bottom of the pit. They know it's like an adult dragon. They know that a certain attack does this. They know it has this stat-wise. But their characters don't know, because the previous people that did know have all been killed. So now we're starting to touch the line of metagaming. It would be at this point that I would be like, their characters would be like, all right, let's go down into the pit and kill a dragon. And I'd be like, kill a what now? You don't know what's down there. So if I know that the players aren't going to metagame, then I...
Alright, we're back from the dragon. Alright, so I think we might have missed it. It might have not captured it, but so it would be considered metagaming because no one survived that fight.
No one survived the fight, so no one
no.
knows what's at the bottom. I might give them a few hints and clues. I'd be like, before entering the pit, you notice that there's a lot of smoke that comes out of it. Or you notice that there is a lot of like gold coins that have been trailed into the pit. Or there have been a lot of burn marks on the walls. I'll give them hints like that, but I won't explicitly say, hey, there's a dragon in the pit, go kill it. And if I know they're going to metagame and they start preparing to fight a dragon, when their characters don't even know if it's a dragon down there, I would definitely switch the character to something completely different to throw them all off. And I'd be like, hey, the consequences of metagaming, you prepared to fight a dragon, but guess what? You're now fighting a giant kraken. Or you're fighting the Cyclops King. And I'd throw them off completely.
What if it's so if one person's metagaming, but then the rest is like, you know, I'm gonna prepare some extra weapons just in case, or like it's kind of like, it's not really necessarily for the boss that they're fighting, but they want to be extra careful. Is that considered metagaming? Like they're just like preparing extra stuff and learning new abilities?
No. At that point, I wouldn't consider it metagaming.
It's more just
in preparation for whatever.
Just being cautious, more cautious?
Yeah, being more cautious, I wouldn't say is metagaming.
But just the fact that if you know without really...
But if they start buying, like, oh hey, we know there's a dragon down there, and they start buying, like, anti-dragon arrows, or they start buying fire-resistant potions, then I'd be like, okay, you guys are metagaming, because your characters don't know there's a dragon down there. But say a person buys 12 different potions, all of various resistances, and one of them just so happens to be fire resistance, I'd allow that. And if they buy a whole bunch of arrows, so they buy anti-kraken arrows, anti-cyclops arrows, anti-dragon arrows, anti-harpy arrows, and stuff like that, then I'd allow something like that. Because at that point, they're not quite metagaming, they're just being really cautious in what I'm going to throw at them.
And then, so like, let's say one person survives, and they can use that person's information to the next group, and it won't be...
Yes.
Because they survived.
Because that character survives the encounter.
And it's like actual experience. And, okay. So it's like...
You know how in like movies that'd be like, a whole party gets killed and they save one person, and then the bad guys grabs that small person to go tell the others what you saw here, and they throw them to go run back into the sanctuary to the other group.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that situation is. One person survived, so they can tell others about the situation that they just survived. And then that party, if they start buying all the dragon resistant stuff, then that logically makes sense. Because now they know there's a dragon down there because someone survived the encounter.
Okay. So we got through like one person surviving, or then the group dies. Let's say the group is successful in killing the dragon, like the biggest quest on the journey. Like, what would happen? Like, would everyone just say, "All right, that was it, closing the books"? Like,
so you're talking about like completing a campaign, so to say.
Yeah, or like the main quest. Yeah.
At that point, I would have written up a big old monologue describing how the campaign now ends. I'd talk about how the dragon they killed has now... The dragon was guarding a door, and it turns out that door led to a trapped kingdom, and now those people are free. I'd write out a whole monologue being like, the people of that kingdom threw a big old party, and they did all this for you. They brought you wealth, wine. You guys dined with them. You met with their king. You met with their princess and whatnot. And then, essentially, I'd tell them the whole story. I'd be like, the end, and I'd be like, all right, close up the books. Time to head home, boys.
Is there like something that you give them, or like some sort of like memory, so like they can look back at that quest, or like?
Well, I'm currently in the process of like writing short stories of the encounters that they have in D&D, and then giving that to my players so they can keep on to those. I'm setting it up in like a Google Doc, and I write them out. But essentially that's it. That's the whole monologue is their memory, and their reward is like satisfaction in knowing that they completed this campaign, and that all of their work that they put into has finally come out, that they have finished it, and they have won at the very end of the day.
Okay, and then if the campaign does finish, is there a rule where can they reuse that character into the next?
Yeah, okay, so...
Or would they have to start brand new?
So let's say I have another campaign lined up, and it's the sequel to the first one. I would say to my players, if you want to make a new character, because it's a new campaign, you can, but I will also give you the option to use your old characters as well. And then, based off of level-wise, I want to have everyone at a flat playing ground that they can do again. So if people are reusing old characters, I would essentially say, do you want to continue off of the level that they were at, or do you want to start back at 1 again? If they want to start back at, say they finished the first campaign at level 10, they want to keep that character into the second campaign, then I would give the option that you can use your old character, and if you are making a new character, make that new character assuming you are at level 10. So they go make their character, and then they go through the leveling guide, and they level up their character all the way to 10, so that when the campaign starts, everyone's at the same level. But if they want to start the new campaign, use their old character, but they want to tweak some things that their old character did, then I would tell everyone make brand new characters. If you're using your old character, revert your character back to level 1. So then when they start the second campaign, everyone starts out at level 1 again.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's at the same level when they start the campaign. That is what I would do if they wanted to use their old character for another campaign.
Okay.
But say the next campaign is a sci-fi campaign that takes place 20,000 years in the future.
Yeah.
Someone would have to come up with a really good logical reason for why their character would still be alive for that next campaign.
Depending on the setting. And
depending on the setting and whatnot.
The character just so happens to create a immortal potion. They're known as a wizard, so they made it. Surely he can come into this next...
I don't know about that one.
He froze himself and...
Walt Disney style? He froze his head and they kept it in a jar.
Yeah, now it's just a robot carrying the head. He's still got the knowledge in there.
Maybe. It just depends on the characters and the situations.
Okay.
You know in Futurama, how there's Nixon and he's just a head in a jar on a robot body?
Yeah.
If someone wants to build a character very similar to that, I'd be like, maybe.
Just maybe.
Just maybe.
So, another question that popped up.
Mm-hmm.
When they're in a D&D, are they allowed to have like a pet, or like, you know, like a
some sort of animal companion?
Yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like a robot buddy or something. Or like...
Yeah, you can have something like that. In the sci-fi campaign, you can have like an AI chip, very similar to like Master Chief and Cortana have. You could have like a robo-dog with you. In the fantasy setting, you could have a horse that you ride along. You name your horse. Your horse has a certain stat block. Or you can have a dog with you. You can have a cat. Say you have like a hunting owl. And then because it's fantasy, you can go a little bit more in depth and be like, yeah, I have this pet wyvern. I have a pet dragon. Stuff like that. Yeah,
So,
it's completely possible. one of these books, I think in Tasha's Cauldron, to pull it up, I believe the ranger
Has a
class called the Beastmaster Companions, and that subclass is based around this character having magical pets, and those pets end up fighting for him, and that's why it's called the Beastmaster.
Oh.
So there's a full subclass that was added to 5th edition that covers your question.
Huh. You know, I just realized, like, D&D came out a while ago, right?
D&D came out in the 80s, I think.
And then, like, the pet thing, and then, like, the fight the boss kind of gave me a nostalgia, or maybe it was a correlation, but you know Wizard 101?
Yep, I do know Wizard 101.
Do you think they kind of, you know, took a little bit of D&D? I feel like that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, I can see a bit of that.
You know, like the chance of it
Everything,
failing and all that.
Everything comes from something in some way or some form.
So maybe
that's a quote from me. Write that down. 2022.
I repeat it again?
I don't remember what I just said, but...
Everything was created...
Everything has something at some point from somewhere.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you think about it, like, you know, Dune. Dune was initially a book,
mm-hmm.
and then Dune was made into a movie in the 80s, and then Dune was made into the most recent movie now. Warhammer 40K was made after the book Dune came out. Warhammer is a tabletop game, a tabletop real-time strategy game, but Warhammer 40K takes a lot of inspiration from Dune. So a lot of stuff can take inspiration from others.
Huh.
Just like I would say my D&D campaign definitely has some artifacts or some weapons or some characters which don't normally appear in the D&D fantasy game, but I drew from other medias that I got an influence from.
So, Wizard 101, Pokemon, what's other, Toontown.
Toontown? Pirate 101. We got all sorts of ones.
So maybe they just all learned from D&D and they just... Because I feel like with Wizard 101 I can pretty much see it if you're like a mage or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like that fighting aspect is from D&D.
Yeah.
And like the pet thing as well, it might have some sort of...
There could be some correlation from it, but at the same time it's like... If a bunch of different people have brought that up already, it's hard to determine where the origin point is from. Like, sure, you can be like, if you're doing a sci-fi setting and someone has a sword made of light that can cut through a bunch of stuff, you could be like, oh, that came from Star Wars. But at the same time, Star Wars could have been easily influenced by, well, we know Star Wars is influenced by like old samurai films.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say in one of the samurai films, someone made a special sword that was able to cut through anything. At that point, the Star Wars lightsaber is not an original idea, it came from that. But then we look at that samurai movie and it turns out that draws inspiration for something else.
Oh
And you can't find where the origin is, but you know that this is a classic thing that has now been created because of it. Some sort of weapon, usually a sword that can cut through a lot of material that's set in a sci-fi setting or a fantasy setting.
So inspiration from cavemans, you know, swinging
Everything goes back to the Neanderthals.
The club, and then they're like, you know what, I gotta make this a little easier to swing, a sword, and I gotta make it a little sharper.
Yup.
Sharper, maybe it can,
all
beam of light.
All sort of media that we watch, anime or Western films or any sort of Marvel films, they all come from cavemen.
That's crazy.
There we go.
The intelligence.
It's all there. We just haven't seen it until Felix brought it up right now.
Oh, it's like the, you know that meme when like the brain...
The galaxy brain?
The galaxy brain.
The guy's just like, oh my gosh.
Like, wave one, first you're like remembering like D&D inspired like Wizard 101, and then it goes to Toontown or Pokemon, and then you're just fireworks going on.
You're like, Toontown's inspired by D&D. D&D is inspired by the medieval ages. Medieval ages were inspired by people. People were inspired by the cavemen.
It's like that one meme when the guy's like leaning back. Yeah, have you seen that?
I don't
He's like,
think
he's like opening his mouth like, ah. You never seen that? And like the eyes are.
No, I don't think I know that meme.
I think maybe if you'll see it, you'll probably remember
Okay.
it instantly. My mind is blown now.
Yep.
That
Felix has solved every sort of historian's issues at the moment.
I just gotta find out the origin.
You found the origin.
Was
It's
it
cavemen.
Was it from cavemen though? Maybe they learned from animals or something.
Oh, dude, cavemen. Turns out they learned from single-cell organisms. Oh man, we're going back even further.
We're going to the cell, the tiniest cell.
Everything comes from the Big Bang. There we go. But where does the Big Bang come from?
That's scary.
We're getting off topic here.
It's a nice way to think about
Existential crisis moment.
My life is all a lie. I don't even know what to go on after that. I don't know what to say. My mind is just still like processing.
Let me bring you back to reality. Do you want to see what's in the box?
Yes. Good transition. Is it a game piece? No, it's a D20
What
famous.
do you think is it?
I think prediction.
I'll give you the box and you can hold it and weigh it.
Kind of heavy. I'm gonna say. Can I shake it?
Yeah, you can shake it.
I think it's. It feels like a book or a small journal. Maybe some like previous Dungeon Master notes, maybe. Sounds like maybe a dice or game pieces in here. It's kind of small though. I think it's multiple small dice. Final answer, I'm gonna say dice and I'd say maybe
Got dice.
I don't think it's a journal. I think maybe
He's weighing it now.
maybe it's not. It's like a book or something. I don't know if it's game pieces.
You say there's dice.
Definitely
What else could possibly be in there?
dice. Something for Dungeon Masters. I think
That's a very open-ended answer, Felix.
I think a guide, or like maybe like previous notes,
So you think
Like-
there's dice and notes.
like some sort of journal. Like, this is what I tried. Here's the story.
Well, you got a few things right. Here are some dice.
Ooh, wait a minute. Are they the same colors?
No, they're different colors. So those are my Dungeon Master dice that I use.
Dang, this is like crystal gems or something.
Now, if you want to be really fancy, here is another set of dice. Made of a different material this time.
Is it metal?
Yes, they are made of metal.
Wait, so when I just noticed the dice, some of them are like a little different. They're not like the usual dice. It's like,
Nope.
what is this, a 10 die?
That is a D10, but that is a D10 percentage dice.
So then what is this triangle one? Because it's only 4.
Well, you answered it. It's a D4.
But when it lands, do you add up all of these?
Whatever is up on top is whatever that roll is.
Oh, so
So it's a 3 if you rolled it like that.
Oh, okay, and then D.
That is a D12.
What do you use a D12 for? Fighting?
D12 would be either someone's hit dice or a weapon.
And then a
D8.
D8.
Once again, another weapon or a hit dice.
Oh, whoa! This is getting What is this one? D100?
So that's the D10 that's meant for percentages. So you roll this one and this one together to get a percentage between 1 and 100.
And then this one's for which one? The triangle?
The D4 would be used for weapons.
Like the weapon that
Like-
you use?
Yeah, like a club is a D4 in terms of damage.
And then this one's...
That one, the D8 and the D12 can either be a weapon, or it could be what's known as a hit dice, which determines your health.
Mm-hmm. Where's the dice they use for who goes first? Is it this one?
The D20 is the main dice that you use to determine a lot of different rolls. And then you have your classic 6-sided dice.
What's this one? The classic for?
So the D20 is used for almost like every single roll you do. There may be a weapon that does D20 damage, but when you roll initiatives or when you roll for stats or you roll like a check, all of it is based off of a D20.
Dude, this is fancy. You can't see it because it's so bright, but it's... Oh my gosh.
So those are the special dice that I only use occasionally.
Dude, this thing's heavy.
It's a heavy...
You can't even see it. That's how amazing it is.
It's a heavy dice. Like
Dude.
if you roll it on the table and you hear it...
Yikes. That's pretty heavy. Wait, these are fancy. Wait, what is this one?
That's the percentage dice. No, that's just the regular D10 one. The percentage one is that one. Then you got...
Wait, was this the same one from that other one?
Yep.
Okay. Whoa. Where do you even get these? Like this one in particular.
That one was a gift, like 2 Secret Santas ago, I think.
Wow, this is really nice.
So you got dice.
Okay, dice.
What was your other guess?
It was like either a journal or a book, and then I was like, I was going either that or his game piece. But
So-
I think I said journal.
I do have a journal and a notepad that I use to either keep notes in or I use to...
Sea salt?
You know, I don't remember what the last one was, but that's what it was. But sometimes I'll write something down and then I'll rip it out and I'll sneak it over to the players. And be like, that is like a secret note that I would write.
Oh. I was like, oh man, this is like the secrets, but then it's all empty.
Well, you can't know the secrets, Felix. Now, if I have journals, of course,
Pencils.
I need pencils and erasers.
Just a plain
Just plain.
number 2 pencil.
I have a special D20 dice.
Wait, what? What is this?
That's from there's a stream that happens in November. It's a famous stream that they do to raise charity and money. Second Life, I think that's what it's called.
Is this 6? What
Yeah, it's just a 6-sided die. So that would be I think that's a one.
That's gotta be a 6 because there's 1,
Yeah,
2,
that's a 6.
3, 4, 5.
Yeah, that one's the 6.
What is it though? Is it a crab? Or
It's
is it like
it's a game controller and it has wings and a halo.
Oh,
If you see like the stream icon, then you know what it is.
okay.
And then last thing,
What is this?
those can just be for generic tokens, but that I use that for something called inspiration. So inspiration is something that I would reward players with if they're playing like very close to how their characters would, or they just did something so amazing that I thought that they needed an inspiration for. And then
Did they redeem it?
yes, so it's not part of D&D. You won't find it in the rulebook, but it's something that my friend did that I thought was very interesting. Essentially, an inspiration is a second chance at something. So say
Huh.
they wanted to do a really fancy hit, and they wanted to go for the very final hit on a monster, and they're really low health, and if they don't land this hit, they could die, and they missed it. So you know for sure that the monster's next turn is going to kill them. They can use an inspiration to hopefully redo that last roll, and if they use that inspiration, it turns out that roll now hits, and it kills the monster before it kills them, then that's what the inspiration is used for.
So it's like a second life. Or
It's a second chance. But at the same time, they could mess up, use an inspiration, and then mess up on the second time, and that'd be like, you're out of inspiration, sorry.
My superpower.
That is it. But that is everything that I keep inside this box. And I use this box for DMing and pulling out notes and whatnot. Essentially as essential stuff that you need for D&D campaign. Like this could be used as a player's box as well, because players are allowed to take notes and stuff as well. But they probably do it on like an actual sheet instead of like the notepads that I have.
Wow, we went through 2 books today, and the special box that I was dying to know. I keep seeing it and like was trying to figure out what's in that thing. I was thinking like a game piece, like a.
I mean, the
like
token,
your own personal
the
one.
inspirations can be game pieces. No, I have a personal piece. I don't know where it is right now. I think my friend has it for his campaign. I think he has my piece for that.
So you don't have it.
No, I don't have it. It's if I had it, I would keep it in there, but I currently don't have it.
What is it though?
So my player, it's my player piece for the one that I play in as a character for my friend's campaign. He DMs it, so I'm an actual character. My character is a samurai robot.
Custom?
Yes, it is custom made, and I painted it myself.
I need to see a photo next time.
I'll have to get one. I don't have one. I mean, I don't have it right now, so I can't take a photo of it. But I'll ask my friend for it, because I'm pretty sure he has it.
Robot samurai. Like half robot, half human?
No,
Or just robot?
it's a full robot samurai.
Oh, okay. Huh. Kind of curious what it would look like if it's custom too,
I'll have to show you a picture.
and if it's painted. Does it? It just like has moves like a samurai, or like because it's robot, it has like accelerated or.
So his campaigns run very much more homebrew. So his campaign doesn't follow any of the normal classes that you would take in the D&D book.
Yeah.
And he made up a lot of stuff, and we kind of just follow his system of doing it. And then, like, for his campaign, I can't pull up the player's handbook just because there's so much vastly different. I would have to ask him for a lot of stuff on figuring out how to play it. But I have a katana that does a certain amount of damage, and then I have skills which improve my katana skills, and then I also have a bunch of abilities which are more robotic than actual samurai. So I have laser eyes as well.
Wow.
So I could chop someone, and it turns out that they're not dead. I could use my laser eye attack to finish them off.
Huh. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Wow. I'm just like, wow. It's like, I can't believe it's an hour. Honestly, like, it felt like it was just like 30 minutes. I just went through the books,
Yep.
and then the game pieces, and then just like the mechanics of it. I think it was a good podcast. I
Yeah.
don't know how much time. I have 2 minutes. Any final thoughts? Surely there's gonna be a part 3 because this.
Yeah,
is,
there could be a part
This
3.
is just basics. Now we gotta make a character or something.
Yeah, I can go through, make a character. I could also tell you like short stories that I have written up about my campaign. I can tell you about my campaigns that I have too. I have 3 at the moment. 2 are set in fantasy. 1 is set in a sci-fi location, and then I just got Cyberpunk Red, the actual book, for my birthday. So I haven't gone through with reading it yet, but that has like how you run a D&D campaign in a cyberpunk setting.
Any final thoughts? With a minute to spare.
Not that I can think of. I really can't think of anything else.
Well, if there's nothing else to say, thank you for explaining D&D.
Mm-hmm.
I know I briefly did it, but now that I'm hearing more about it, I'm more.
The session that we did got really screwed up. So just imagine that didn't happen, and that you were completely fresh and brand new to D&D.
Okay, I kind of forgot a little bit about it, but now I know. Okay, this is how it's structured.
Yep.
And I'm excited for first official campaign.
Yeah.
We'll see that in the next podcast.
All right.
Yeah, we're gonna end it there. I don't know what else to say. Thanks for listening to the LTA show. I'm your host Felix, and I got Kaeden. Thank you very
Oh.
much.
I'm Kaeden, the Dungeon Master.
He's gonna roll a d20 and be like, unfortunate. Bonk.
Unfortunate, did not get it correct.
Bonk you in the head and you're gone.
Yup,
That's pretty much it.
I'll do that. I swear I'll do it.
Time to end it there.